Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are happy you are here with us as we get to talk about this really exciting topic today, powerful moments to start the year strong. As folks are joining us, we would love to hear who is with us today. So in the chat, please go ahead and share your name, your role, and where you are joining us from. All right, it looks like we've got some folks joining from Minnesota. Hi, Anne. Kristen from La Quinta. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Krista. Looks like we have some folks who are learning specialists, teachers, principals. Wow, we have someone joining us from Lebanon. I wish I knew what time it is where you were, but my time zone math does not travel that far, but welcome. We are so happy you are here today. Folks joining us from Ohio, California, 5 p.m. All right, maybe just closing down the day. We're happy to end the workday with you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to be using the chat as a feature throughout the webinar. So please feel free to keep the conversation lively, connect with one another, ask questions, connect with us, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So some welcome and introductions as we do. My name is Maggie Hodge. I am based out of Austin, Texas, although right now I'm in the Bay Area at my mom's house, just waking up early this morning. I'll have my teammates say hello and introduce themselves in just a moment, but a little bit about the folks you have, the four of us as your co-hosts for today. Collectively, we have served as teachers, as coaches, school and district leaders in various capacities, public speakers, and a whole host of other roles in and outside of education. And now we are consultants supporting schools and districts around the country and feel so fortunate to do what we do. So again, I'm Maggie, one of your co-hosts, and I'll turn it over to my teammate, Nick, to say good morning.
Morning, everyone. It's early for me, not as early as it is for some, but I'm from Northern Colorado. It's great to see that there's so many Coloradans out there today. I've been a teacher for 10 years and looking forward to this because this is such a great topic that I loved thinking about when I was a teacher. So looking forward to it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Edmonds. I am calling in from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I saw somebody from Philadelphia in the chat. So welcome to everyone. And we are really excited to jump into this. And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Meg.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I am based in Memphis, Tennessee.
All right, well, thank you to my teammates for joining and to all of you. So just a little bit about us before we get started. We are Education Elements, an education consultancy, and we are so fortunate that we get to work with schools and districts and educators such as yourselves all around the country. One of our core beliefs is that schools grow when people grow, and today we are excited to be growing and learning alongside of you all. With that said, I'm going to pass it over to my teammate, Meg, to tell you a little bit about how our time today will go.
Great, thank you. So we have two primary objectives today. The first is to build shared meaning and the types of moments that create powerful experiences. And the second is to explore strategies for creating these experiences for your teams. And how are we going to get there? So first, we will share examples and ideas. Then we will spend some time discussing the potential impact these experiences could have. And throughout the process, we are going to learn from one another, providing an opportunity to reflect and share our ideas and experiences along the way. So now we're going to pivot towards a bit of an EE tradition and start with a check-in question. Check-in questions can provide a quick opportunity for everyone to share how they're doing and their response to a question. In this instance, I'd like everyone to take 20 to 30 seconds and consider, what is a moment you've experienced in your life that you would describe as powerful? I'm going to allow everyone a moment to consider the question, and when you're ready, please go ahead and share your response in the chat. Great, I already see some coming in. The birth of a child is certainly a powerful moment. Yeah, spiritual moments. Working with teenagers as a camp counselor, becoming a mother. Surviving an accident, that's certainly a powerful moment. Marriage, there are a lot of transitions that folks are talking about in their moments. Some professional ones, earning a master's degree, the pandemic was certainly a powerful moment for many of us. Staying positive during that time, working with families and children. Powerful moments can also include loss. Some moments of insight, learning something new about yourself. When a student tells you they appreciate a lesson. Caring for your children when they are sick. There's some great moments here. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead, graduating from college. Yes, absolutely. All those really great transition moments. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Maggie to share a little bit about why prioritizing powerful moments is so important.
Thanks, Meg, and thank you everyone for sharing all of those powerful moments. I really appreciate the vulnerability we are seeing with this group, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later and how that can be connected to powerful moments. So first, what are we talking about when we think of the power of moments, and why are we focusing in on this? This is a book that you may be familiar with. The Power of Moments by Chip Heath and Dan Heath have written other well-known titles such as Switch and Made to Stick. And this is a book that served as a lot of inspiration for our team when we think about not only why we do this work, but how we show up to this work. What are the types of experiences that we want to create and that we would like to be a part of? So there are a lot of powerful quotes, a lot of things that we have really taken away from this book and we'll talk more about. But this quote feels really timely here, based off of the challenging year and a half plus that so many of us have endured. So I'm going to read this for a moment and just pause for a bit of reflection. In life, we can work so hard to get the kinks out that we forget to put the peaks in. When I read this really resonated with me. When I reflect on my time as a school leader, so often I was working really hard to solve problems, to put out fires, that I truly failed to not only just slow down, stop and smell the roses, but to also really focus in on those moments that can be really powerful for myself and others. I know that's true of me as a mom as well. So I am anticipating that based off of the various roles we see from what you shared in the chat, that many of you play in as teachers leading kids and as school and district leaders leading other adults. I think it's safe to say that this may resonate with y'all as well. So before we jump in, we do want to pause and really reflect on the past year, knowing that you all have really been the thick of it, doing so much for your communities, for our students, and for each other. So let's just take a moment to reflect.
Four plus 1 is
16. How many pints of iced tea are left in the pitcher?
Times 10. So quick.
You want to show us the continents and the no.
It's not going good. My mom is getting stressed out.
Is it big deal, Joey? Mama's tired.
I
So starting just quickly by breathing in.
I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of miss school.
So teachers, y'all the gift of people.
I thank you so much for what you're doing.
Their investment into our children is beyond what we can even imagine. Appreciate all that you do.
So we just wanted to take a moment to echo these sentiments and truly say thank you. Thank you for the work that you do every day. Thank you for the work that you have been doing during a really, really challenging time. Thank you for being here today. We know that as caretakers, as teachers, as leaders, you are often putting the needs of others before your own. And we want to take a moment to celebrate you all, and today really think about how we lead and move forward in that spirit of creating powerful moments, knowing that a lot of those in the last year and a half have been really challenging. Thank you. So before we jump further into some of the strategies that we connect with powerful moments, we want to just take a brief moment to connect to the psychology behind the book here. So many of you are likely familiar with the world famous organizational psychologist, among many, many other roles held by Daniel Kahneman. And we want to think a little bit about the peak end rule. So as he states in his research, memory was not designed to measure ongoing happiness or total suffering. For survival, you really don't need to put a lot of weight on duration of experiences. It is how bad they are and whether they end well that is really the information you need as an organism. This is something that really sticks out to us, and I'm going to take a little bit of liberty with this quote here and add either how bad or how good. I think when powerful moments come to mind, those elements of our lives that really stick out in our memories, that can contain both high highs, low lows, as well as a bit of that recency effect. We're going to talk a little bit more about what we mean by peak moments. And this is the basis for our thinking as to why this matters, why we want to create these intentionally for our teams, as this is going to dictate a lot of how they would report back on their experiences. That said, I'm going to pass it to my teammate, Chris.
Thanks, Maggie. Utilizing that quote, I want to pivot to this question here and get some responses in the chat. So the question is, what was a peak moment you've experienced in the last 48 hours? And then the follow-up to that is, how did that moment make you feel? So let's take a few moments to answer those questions. And already seeing some responses come in. Thank you so much. Nick, would you mind coming off mute and quickly sharing your peak moment that you've had in the past 48 hours?
So yesterday after work, my wife had discovered Rita's water ice, which is a Philadelphia dessert treat. It's like Italian ice. And since we live out here in Northern Colorado now, we don't get it all that often. So the fact that she found it really made us feel kind of satisfy homesickness, because we haven't seen everybody since COVID started. So it meant a lot yesterday.
Thanks for sharing, Nick. And I love the Philly reference there. Rita's water ice. Very, very delicious. Seeing some others in the chat, went food shopping, distributing a pile of mulch. Yard work can be very therapeutic. So thank you for sharing. And all these moments that we're sharing lead us to these two key takeaways. And those are, number one, powerful moments can and often do happen in small events. I'm seeing a lot of events in the chat that weren't major details of a day, but they became a powerful moment. And also the aha number two that I want to point out is powerful moments are not just up to chance or luck. They can intentionally be created by us. And so that's what we're going to dive into more detail in the next part of this presentation. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Nick, who's going to dive into our how to create powerful moments.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. So the great thing about, I think, this webinar is we're going to break it down into the 4 different kinds of moments that we can experience and also create. So while I'm on this slide, I want to make sure that we talk about like the lens that we want to look at this webinar with. So each of these moments can happen at a totally different cost price, right? So on one hand, you can create, moments like the Super Bowl that cost millions of dollars. So if you and your school district has that opportunity, great, good job and do that. But also there are things that you can do that take very little planning and no cost at all. And we want to make sure we focus on all of those types of experiences. The second thing is that each of these moments that we talk about, or the ones that you're reflecting on, they can be more than one thing. So they could be a moment that is elevated, but also bring you pride or connect one another in your school community. And then just like Chris said, I wanted to echo it again. You might say, as we're going through this, oh yeah, that makes sense. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here with this webinar, but what we're trying to do is point out the things that really matter and how to be purposeful on to create these events and these moments to become part of your school community. So we're trying to be very purposeful here, and I'm going to get us started, I believe, with the first kind of moment. So the first kind of moment are the ones that elevate us, that bring us, they break the script. They, as it says right there, rise above the everyday. They can be surprising, extraordinary, and delightful. They accomplish really two things. One is they raise the stakes. Think of any sports movie or teaching movie, and those moments in the movie where the teacher or the coach gives a rousing speech. Right, that is an elevated moment because the teacher or the coach is showing everybody why this moment is really important. And I think sometimes as teachers, when we're teachers or school leaders, as we're going through the monotony of the day-to-day, having a leader point out why this moment is special is really important. The second thing that moments of elevation do is it sounds funny, but it boosts our senses, our sensory experience, right? So think of when you're hosting a birthday party for your kid, right? What are the few things that you're considering? You're thinking of, the cake, so that's taste. You're thinking of music. You're thinking of balloons, just like pops of color everywhere. And the reason you do this is because you want your child and their friends to notice that this is a special experience. So by doing those two things in our school communities, we can make people feel like these moments are truly special. So we gave you some examples on the next slide here. Okay, perfect. And these are things we can do in classrooms, we can do in meetings, but here are 3 types of examples that we wanted to walk you through. So the first kind is changing the environment, switching things up. Think about, why do you go on vacation, right? Because a change of scenery every once in a while is good for the soul. It's good to, turn off the brain. It's good to relax, but it's also good for the sake of creativity. One example could be company retreats, which could cost money. But one of the cheapest options, which made all the difference for me one year, was my principal said, all right, you have the next 2 hours to accomplish this task, but I want you to walk around our school campus outside. It was a beautiful day. We walked around and the ideas were flowing. And I think the reason was because we weren't at our desks. No one had their phones out. We weren't necessarily worried about whose role was what, and no one was taking notes. And because of that, the creativity was really flowing. And we then synthesized it when we got back to the classroom later. So just by changing it up, really elevated that professional development moment, which could have just been boring, like so many can be. The second one I wanted to talk about was celebrating achievements. And I know we're going to talk about it in other sections later, but the reason is because this is a great example of us taking another kind of moment and then elevating it. So typically high schools, especially mine, what they did when I was teaching there, what they did is they would post where all of the students were going to college in the yearbook or in the school newspaper. Now, whether we think of it that way or not, that technically is an event, right? It's a moment that a student is seeing themselves in the newspaper. But some schools decided, we're going to take that moment and we're going to elevate it. So they make it into a party. They invite parents and family. They have music and, I guess a little bit of food. And they have the students with their, their college sweatshirts or their pennants, and they make it something that everyone in the school community can look forward to every single year. Simple, it's easy, but that does cost money. So what's something that you could do that doesn't cost money? And I've always seen on YouTube these really sweet moments where the 8th grade graduates of an elementary school are walking through the halls with all of the little kids from the lower grades clapping and cheering them on. It's really simple, but it's something that every kid in that school is going to want to do when they grow up. It's very easy and it elevates the moment. And then just to echo something that Maggie said when she was talking about the psychology of these moments, is very often, especially as leaders and as teachers, what we're worried about is ironing out all of the possible pitfalls that we might experience on a daily basis. But what we're doing during those moments is we're unknowingly getting rid of those really random, special, and exciting moments too. So how can we build in randomness into our daily routine? And that's something that we should be purposeful and think about. So one day, I'm an early riser, so I would get to school at like 6:30. But there was one day that my school actually had a food truck with coffee and muffins before I got there. And it made me feel so good. And it really was the thing that I told my wife about later that day. So like I said, there are so many great, easy things that you can do just to make normal moments even better. So with that said, we would like to hear from you. Actually, no, not yet. What we want to do is talk about why these moments are special. And here are a few of the things that I've already said, but we want to make sure we hit on. When you elevate moments in your classroom, it empowers people. It empowers the flow of creativity. And it does that because it puts people outside of their comfort zone. It gives people things to fondly remember and eagerly anticipate. On the previous slide, one of the things that I did not mention, because I wanted to save it for right now, was there are some times that a principal could walk up to your classroom when you are, lesson planning during your off period, and they show up in your doorway, and a typical teacher would probably straighten up, they would tense up, and they would think, oh no, what did I do wrong? But sometimes a principal can say, you know what, I heard a student today said how much they loved your class. I just thought you wanted to know that, and keep up the good work. That moment is an elevated moment. It costs nothing, no planning. And most importantly, that is the thing that teacher is going to take with them for the rest of the day. Not the broken pencils, not the technology mishaps, none of that, but the thing that you said to them makes all the difference. It fosters creativity and boosts the sensory appeal of the organization. So now it is time to talk about some of your ideas so that everybody can learn from one another. What are some ways of elevating moments in your class that you have done in the past, or you've always wanted to try?
Thinking about it from like the surprise and delight perspective, Nick, I had a principal one year who the first payday of the school year put little payday candy bars in every teacher's cubby with like a little handwritten note about how you deserve so much more than this, but just a really fun, spontaneous way to elevate the first payday of the school year.
Thank you. Chris, how about you?
When I was a school leader, we would really try to celebrate teacher success. So we'd have arcs split amongst every 6 weeks. We'd gather data, and then in our Friday PDs, we would celebrate teachers who exceeded our goals and just recognize the work that they've done. And it really helped our team come together on Fridays, and it was really successful.
Awesome. No, so just reading the chat, like the handwritten notes, that's what I'm talking about. Like even putting them into teachers' mailboxes is great. Swag for, as Cynthia said, calling out new teachers, giving them some support is very important, and they need that. Those elevated moments when they're trying to get off the ground. Breakfast, create cards, a lot of candy. It seems like we need a lot of candy. It seems that teachers need. But so many great ideas. Yeah, all the food, very, very much in agreement there. So like as you can see, like the first things that are coming to people's minds are really easy to do, but it takes some thought and it takes some purposeful thinking about these moments. And that's going to reflect as we go through the rest of this webinar. So I believe we're heading it back to Maggie to talk about moments of pride.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. And thank you to everyone for sharing all of those great ideas in the chat. As we suspected, there is a wealth of knowledge among us today. So keep those ideas coming. So the next type of moments we're going to talk about are those that create a sense of pride. And as Nick shared in his framing, there's certainly a lot of crossover between these types of moments that you will see. When we think about moments that create a sense of pride, we think about those that really capture us at our best. We might be feeling accomplished. We might be feeling successful. We might be celebrating significant personal or professional growth. We might really be connecting to our why. Why do we do this work? So some common types of events that this may bring to mind are award ceremonies, thank you notes, achieving a goal. And we're going to talk about a couple more concrete ways you can foster these moments for your teams. So the first general bucket here we think about is personalized praise. And this personalized aspect is really, really important. You'll hear us a couple of times talk about notes or messages of gratitude. And when those are done in a way that really acknowledge the specific actions as well as the impact, this not only shares that praise, that recognition with the individual, but it also serves as a tool to really reinforce those types of actions, those types of behaviors that we want to see, because we are connecting them to that positive impact that really gets to the core sense of why we do what we do, and feeling that really distinct sense of pride in our work, even on the hardest days. Another really simple strategy, this could be public or private, often depends on the culture of your school, the preferences of the individual, but those notes, those emails, those texts, and if you have any types of shared communication, whether it is a school-wide newsletter, you might have a habit at staff meetings of shout outs for the last 5 minutes. This can really go a long way in elevating that sense of pride. One specific habit that I used to do as a school leader with my teams was in the first 5 minutes of any of our leadership team meetings, we each wrote at least one thank you note, text or email to someone that we support. So building in those really simple structures to make sure we don't let these things fall by the wayside when we're keeping up with a laundry list of to-dos is one way to make sure we're prioritizing powerful moments. Second bucket here is thinking about celebrating achievements. And again, this can be big or small. So likely you've been in some type of a session before where the presenter asks folks to stand up and stay standing based on the number of years that you have been teaching. I've probably participated in an event like that more times than I can count. And each time it has left me feeling that really distinct sense of pride, both based on my own longevity in education, as well as just feeling really connected to the collective experience in the room. This could also look like celebratory announcements for meeting goals, whether this is a grade level team, whether this is a student, whether this is an individual staff member. How do we celebrate the fact that we have worked really hard and we have accomplished something, whether this is big or small? When I think about being a school leader for a given student, this might be a conversation at the end of the day that this student met their individual goals on their behavior tracker, or today they stayed in class longer than they did the day before. This does not have to be an end of year goal. While there is certainly a place for that, focusing on those little moments can really build that momentum as we are working to accomplish those bigger goals. Connecting to personal lives. I think more than ever during the pandemic, we have all been reminded that we are complex people with pets and babies and families and lots going on in our lives. So bringing that into the school community can be a really powerful way to make individuals felt seen and heard as their whole selves. And then the last bucket we focus on here is those stories of impact. This can be as simple as pulling out your iPhone in the hallway and capturing a kid saying, hey, what is something, you ask them, what is something that your teacher did that really helped you today? This can be pulling in data, whether this is impact in terms of learning or growth, whether this is time spent, looking at the numbers and really connecting folks to the big picture, as well as those small things that touch on a student's life, can be a really powerful way to continue to build that sense of pride, not only in themselves, but also in the work and in your specific community. When we think about why this matters, there are a couple things that stick out to us. So one is that when we focus on creating moments of pride, this can build a strong sense of community and investment in our work and each other. As we talked about at the beginning of this webinar, this last year and a half has been extremely challenging, and working in education is always really challenging. It's also so important. And so as we continue to build these moments of pride, sometimes really digging deep into your why is the thing that can get us through a really challenging time and keep us moving forward. This can create brand recognition. If you've ever been to a district-wide event or live in a community where folks are really recognized based on their school swag, you can get a sense of those schools that are really proud to be a part of that specific community building that pride goes a long way to creating that as a lasting effect. This can solidify common values. As we talked about, those really specific shout outs. If you have a set of values as a school team that you are really working to instill, the more we name those, the more we build pride in living those can make those come to life. And then lastly, fostering a culture of celebration, not only focusing on the accomplishments of individuals, but of teams is really, really important to create that cohesion. And one thing that we will name is a lot of these strategies we're sharing might be naming them in terms of focusing on school staff, but if you make a minor tweak here and there, they are really easily translatable to focusing on students, to focusing at the district level. So we encourage you to continue to take that lens as we share more examples. So with that said, we'd love to learn from all of the experts we have here and turn it over to you. What ideas do you have, or what have you tried to create a sense of pride? Go ahead and share these ideas in the chat. Newsletter shout outs. Krista, thank you for sharing that. Last 5 minutes of staff meetings, no prep, and you build that in as a habit, folks expect it. Absolutely. What about my teammates? Anything that sticks out to y'all? Feel free to just jump in to create a moment of pride.
Sounds silly, but so I used to run service trips, like Habitat for Humanity trips with my students, and I would make sure that we would have t-shirts because t-shirts really united everybody, and we would always do like put-ups as we gave out the t-shirts, kind of like having a team flag, always really helped.
Thanks, Nick. I'm seeing some other great ideas in the chat. Spirit days every Friday. Absolutely. What a great, simple way to build that sense of pride, that camaraderie. Using social media, that's a great, simple way to really amplify that public praise and share that out within the community. Great. Well, feel free to keep those ideas coming. Thank you all for sharing your experiences and insight. And with that said, I am going to pass it to my teammate, Meg.
Thank you so much, Maggie. So I'm really looking forward to discussing with you all what are some of these moments that we can create that provide a sense of insight. And so insights are those moments that shift our understanding of ourselves and of the world around us. So consider those moments in your life when a missing piece slipped into place and you finally had clarity on what you had been doing, thinking about, or even considering. They can also be these aha moments that seemingly come out of nowhere, or a time when you realize something unexpected about yourself, about others, or things around you. What makes insight different from some of the other moments is that these moments are truly grounded in curiosity and questioning. And I'm going to share some really specific ideas of what we're talking about. And so here's the first one that we have here, right? But a couple of things to consider as we're thinking about insight. Insights deliver realizations and transformations. And while some moments are serendipitous, there are opportunities to create moments of insight. It is important to note, though, that these moments are really about allowing the audience to uncover the realization or truth themselves. So you can facilitate that learning, but you can't give it to them. And so first, let's consider how we can encourage empathy. By engaging with stakeholders, we can guide educators towards some of these aha moments. We refer to conversations like these as empathy interviews. And so here are some questions that you might ask, right? What are you most proud of at your campus? Or if you're talking to family and community members, shifting towards within your community. Think about your favorite classes. What makes them special or different from other classes? And then think about the types of realizations and aha moments a teacher might have listening to a student discuss their response to that question. Another approach is to formally engineer opportunities to get to some of these aha moments. An example of this would be setting aside time during a faculty meeting or an instructional leadership team meeting to consider the impact you hope to have on students' lives. For example, right, the sentence stem we have here, 5 years from now, my students will still know blank, or they will still be able to do X, Y, or Z. or they still find value in however they want to complete that. And then shifting that conversation towards how much of our current approach to classroom instruction will advance students towards the dreams you have for them. This can really allow them, teachers or leaders, whoever's engaging in this conversation, to get to that realization on their own. Another opportunity here would be some formally structured times to engage with data, right? So setting aside time to have quarterly data talks with some guiding questions that will help folks to uncover some truths about what's happening. The last idea I want to discuss is really how we can prioritize opportunities for reflection. This can include something really straightforward and quick, like opportunities for daily questions. What worked really well today? What didn't work well today? And then focusing in on that curiosity perspective, what can I try to do tomorrow? And another opportunity is for these moments of reflection to take place with mentors. And this is a really unique and exciting opportunity, right? Because our mentors can set high expectations that expand our ideas of what's truly possible. And so the little equation that we have in here is that by setting high standards and assurance plus direction and support, you can lead to self-insight that truly expands the idea of what's possible and what high expectations really are. And if we create these moments of insight, we will hope that this will support moments of realizations and transformations, both among teachers and leaders, and even community members and students. It truly can foster a culture of learning and reflection, model moments of curiosity and empathy, and increase buy-in and engagement around problems you and your team are trying to solve for. And so now we want to turn it over to you all to share some ideas around what have you done that have created a sense of insight. Anyone on my team, Nick or Maggie?
Meg, one thing, when I was an assistant principal, my former principal used to do was in a weekly newsletter, he always had a section for a quote and for a learning. And so having that consistent space to share a quote that folks could reflect on, as well as really expanding their perspective through a new learning was really powerful. And, of course, we know everyone always reads the newsletters, but in the event that they didn't get to it, we would also circle back and have an opportunity to discuss our reactions to either the quote or the learning for just a few moments in a team meeting later that week.
Thank you. I'm also seeing some great responses in here. So self-reflection surveys, really like that idea. Using some of the Elena Aguilar onward activities, legacy questions, right? How do you want students, teachers to describe you after you retire? Sharing positive affirmations or quotes from my graduate app to others to inspire. Yeah, insights really around this like reflection, the curiosity, those powerful moments that are going to teach you something about yourself and those around you. Yeah, and allowing folks to submit those quotes. I love that idea too. So get some more buy-in and investment that way by asking people to do that. And so I'm going to pass it over, keep on sharing those ideas that you have. I'm going to pass it over to Chris to round us up with our last moment.
Thanks, Meg. Our final piece of this puzzle is moments that create a sense of connection. And when you're thinking of connection, these are moments that tie us closer to others. They're shared, they're together, and they're bonding moments. And so you can think of family ties, sports teams, organizational teams, but the idea here is getting each other to know facts about each other, trust each other, and when moments get difficult, your team sticks together through this connection. So that's what we're aiming for. And some specific examples that we have are the following. One is called Ford Conversations. You can easily Google this and get some more info. But Ford stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. And so these are just topics. If you particularly have newer staff starting, that can drive conversation. People can learn facts about each other, learn each other's histories, and draw connections. And so that's a useful strategy, especially for newer teams at the start of the year in August and September. Also, another key piece here is the human-to-human connection. So this can look like intentional small groupings, clubs, affinity groups, etc. And all those can drive the human connection forward. Also, specific social events. I know in my experience as a school leader, sharing a meal with somebody can go a really long way to building that connection. If you can get out of the school building and share a meal, it can really, really foster that. And then finally, formal and informal check-ins. Prioritizing this both in the group setting, if you have a staff of 50 before a PD, and more importantly, in the individual setting. Starting a meeting with how are you? How was your weekend? How are your kids? And still learning about each other that way can really push connection and unite teams for the entire duration of a school year. And so the goals of all this are, as you see here, it's to spark and create stronger, deeper relationships among staff members that drive collaboration in the classroom and even friendships in some cases. You want to build a more positive school environment for all stakeholders, including students, including families, and every member of your school community. And then a specific goal of this is strengthen year-over-year staff retention. If you have staff members that feel connected to each other, that feel unified, they'll be returning each year. And then finally, fostering more empathy, understanding, and trust among staff members, especially when times get difficult, which they will throughout the school year. So with that, I would love to hear some ideas that you've had or what's resonated with you when you've tried to create a sense of connection in your specific buildings. And so go ahead into the chat and just type those in, and I will share as they come through. And then I will also call on one of my colleagues. How about Nick, if you could share just some ideas that you had or experiences that have developed connection.
Yeah, one of the things that I would start my, as a teacher, I would start my class every year with is an activity called boundary breaking. And I would sit all the kids in a circle and I would ask them like questions. Some were funny, some were deeper, but slowly but surely they got to know each other. So it was like, what's your favorite color? And you got to go all the way around. Or what are you most afraid of? Go all the way around. And at the end, we had some processing questions where the students got to say like, all right, based off of everyone's answers, they were one-word answers, by the way, who do you feel most like? Who would you like to get to know more, right? And by the end of it, everybody felt like they knew more people and also had a plan for how to get to know the class a little bit better going forward.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you for sharing. And I'm seeing some really good ideas in the chat. So if you haven't scrolled through, I'm seeing something that I tried as well when I was a school leader was the baby picture game. That is always fun. And you can get your whole staff involved with that. One other idea that I saw is partnering staff members who don't necessarily work with each other. So if you have the third grade team, sit down with the fifth grade team and collaborate, get to know each other, build connection that way. That can go especially a long way throughout the school year as well. And so thank you for everyone who shared. With that, I'm going to pass it back over to Maggie, who's going to help us wrap up.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And thank you again to everyone for these incredible ideas. And this is a really, really nice segue as we think about some additional considerations for creating these powerful moments. Remember, these can be moments big, but they likely are moments small that really resonate with folks, that really cultivate that sense of pride, that sense of connection. So some things to consider. What are the types of powerful moments that authentically work for you and your team? You might be that principal who puts on the video of the guy who's dancing by himself on that big hill, slowly starts dancing until the whole staff joins in. That might be a mortifying idea to you, right? So you really need to think about what is going to resonate with you, what's going to resonate with your team. If you're unsure, a simple way to get a sense of how people like to be recognized, if that's what you're focusing on, is asking that in a survey at the beginning of the school year, continuing to get to know people so you have a sense of what types of moments will feel authentic and will be empowering. Another consideration is how will powerful moments prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion? Oftentimes in creating powerful moments, folks might be sharing a TED Talk, sharing a quote, using music, really elevating the voices of others. And this is a key consideration. How am I focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion in who or what types of experiences that I feature? Another key question, who else might you include in planning for powerful moments? Creating powerful moments does not need to fall solely on your shoulders, nor should it. And this is actually often a hidden strength for some folks who may not have a leadership role or a title in which they are cultivating staff-wide or team experiences. And this is a great place to let those folks shine. So I encourage you to think about who else can and should be involved in creating these powerful moments. And then another consideration is which subgroups might you focus on in creating powerful moments? I saw an idea from, I think it was Colin in the chat, in thinking about specific affinity groups or leadership teams for staff members of color. Another consideration is new teachers, right? Different subgroups of folks that may either need a bit more attention so that they can be supported, so that they can be elevated. This also comes in the form of just really focusing on individual teams, so you can create that collective sense of connection, of pride, not only within your broader teams, but within those subgroups as well. So you've been here with us for the better part of an hour. You are getting ready to move on about your day and likely are either planning for or already beginning to engage in work with your teams for the school year ahead. So we invite you to consider a couple of next steps here. As we've said a couple of times, powerful moments do not have to be large things. What is one thing you could do this week or even right now to create a powerful moment for your team? This might look like picking up your cell phone right now and sending a text. Hey, I was really thinking about you and I'm so excited for us to get to work together again this year. Another consideration in moving forward is how can you create routines around around creating powerful moments? This might be as simple as this year, we will have that last 5 minutes of every staff meeting for shout outs. In our leadership team meetings, we will save those first 5 minutes for writing thank you notes. And I'm just going to actually go buy some stationery. How can you shape the path so that creating powerful moments does not seem like an exercise in grand creativity or planning each time? And then lastly, how can you empower and inspire others to create powerful moments? So many of the ideas that we shared, as we mentioned, are geared towards staff, but can easily be turned for teachers to leverage in their classrooms with students. So it's not only that you are creating these moments, but be intentional about naming that. How might you use some of these resources and turn these around for your staff so that they can be really thinking about and prioritizing creating powerful moments as well? And just as we did today, so many incredible ideas came from the group. And so we are confident that if you were to bring this up simply as a discussion topic with your teams, you would have a bank of ideas to draw on in moving forward. All right, so with that said, we are coming to a close here. And I have a teammate who is going to jump in just as we checked in. We are going to check out.
Yeah, so I think, like we said from the very beginning, these are authentic moments. So think about what works for you and your building, and you'll be more than fine. When I'm thinking about webinars, I always try to walk away with one thing I can do the very next day. So what is one thing you will do in the coming weeks to create a powerful moment for yourself and for the people in your building? So many good, yeah, like Maggie said, make sure you open this up, share this kind of idea with the people in your building, because you'll have a chat that's similar to ours. And I think that'll really benefit your whole community. The handwritten notes, you can do that and it'll be powerful yet easy to accomplish, which is really important. The texts and the mail, yeah, especially mail. Everybody loves the Meg, thank you. Everybody loves getting mail nowadays. So many great ideas here. I'm trying to scroll back almost just to see, because I feel like I created or I missed some.
Great.
Host a happy hour to create a connection with my team. Very good idea. Everyone will really appreciate that. And it's funny because happy hour isn't just about going to a bar or somewhere, right? It's about seeing the people in your building as human beings, and everybody wants to be a part of a community that feels that way.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick, for bringing us back full circle here. really leaving thinking about powerful moments and knowing that by the time we leave this webinar, you could be beginning to plan or implement something that could have a lasting impact with the individuals and teams that you support. A couple of other things to note. If you enjoyed our time together today, don't worry, we have lots more coming up where you can connect with our team. So additional events can be found on our website, and you can register specifically here. So this is an experience focused on leadership competencies we encourage you to check out. And then another event is a really innovative way to connect, Possibilities Picnics. You can learn more about that on our website, and that is coming up in the next few weeks. Lastly, we just want to share gratitude again for you being here. And if you'd like to continue to connect with us, go ahead and follow us on social media, check out our blog. We love talking about stuff like this. We love thinking about how we can support schools, how we can support people to grow. And so there will be lots more content coming. We encourage you to stay tuned. There's a link in the chat to register for that event if you'd like to check it out. And we will be sending, great question, Kimberly, a follow-up email, both with the recording of this webinar as well as with the slides. So stay tuned for that. With that said, our team was going to stick around for just about a minute here in case you have any questions. And thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do, and keep creating those powerful moments.